Okay, so this is the first problem in this series. And this is about the king pawn endgame in number 2, because I do have the first series, which is an easier series. So, okay, for this problem, it's white to move. You're trying to win here, and what you're trying to do, it's called the knight's opposition, as you learned from the other king pawn series. This will be the knight opposition, where the other one was the king opposition. So our goal is to get this king to this square and this king to this square. We have a knight opposition. And what we're going to do is end up playing here, followed by, once he moves here, then we're going to move here, attacking the pawn. Then he has to come back here, and then we're just going to play back up here, and we're going to eventually take the pawn. So, okay, so we're going to make the first move here is by playing the king right here. Just bring the king closer. Again, we're just bringing the king closer. And now, probably the first step is, because he's not on, next to his pawn or lined up with his pawn, and I am, I can actually get the attack going by first doing the opposition. He has to move back. If he would have moved this way, I would move this way and I gobble up his pawn. But since he didn't do that, I'm going to move over here for the knight opposition. He's going to move back there. And now I'm going to move this way, threaten to attack the pawn. He has to play back, put himself in the knight opposition. Now I can win with the opposition. He has to move back. We stay in the knight opposition. I move up here. He's just trying to protect his pawn. I gobble it up. And then for this example, we'll go to king h6. We'll push the pawn. It shouldn't matter once you're on the 6th rank. It shouldn't matter. If he's on 8th and you're on the 6th, it shouldn't matter. Play here, and then that's it. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so in this one, it's going to be called either Zwischenzug or Zugzwang. I'm pretty sure it's Zwischenzug. Is a German word for the player that moves loses. So that's what we want to do. Anyone can play the first move here, white or black, and whoever plays first will win. And the ideal thing is to attack the backwards pawn. The ideal thing is to attack the backwards pawn without attacking or without protecting your pawn. So if I go here, black will come here, and then black will win. Because if we look at this, I can't go here because the black pawn covers it. So getting rid of all these arrows for a second. Okay. So what we want to do as white is we want to come here and attack the black pawn without protecting our white pawn first. So we're playing a delayed move. Let him protect his pawn, and now we come here, and whoever moves loses the game. It doesn't matter where black goes. You're going to eventually take the pawn. And for here, it doesn't matter if you march up here, or you can just go a little faster by playing here, so you can let this pawn march up the board. Let's go here. Check, check, and queen me. Okay. Let's go with the next problem. Okay, so This position is very similar to the knight opposition, where it looks like black can actually make some threats by coming here, but he is not fast enough because it's white to move. If it was black to move, black will win this, but it's white to move, so first move is, doesn't matter if you come here or here, we'll just come here for the position, and come here. Now he's over there, we want to attack his pawn. We can't go here, but we can go here, so let's go to the green circle. Now, let's go here to play a waiting move, still attacking the pawn. He doesn't have anything, he can't go here because the white pawn. So he moves there, we take the pawn, and it's pretty simple. But let's replay this and see if he plays king to b6 instead. We'll just play here. And he played there too quickly. Now we can play here, and he's in the position where when he moves, he loses. We take. Let's go to the next part. And here is, what if he just moves down again? So we started here, we came here and here, right, from before. And instead of the king going here, which then we counter by here, he goes down here because he wants us to go right here. If we go right there, now he goes right here, and actually black wins because we have to move out and he takes the pawn. So we don't want to do that. If you remember from the previous position, we attack the pawn without protecting. He comes down to protect his pawn and attack ours, and now we play the move where it doesn't matter what he does, he loses the game. Okay, let's go with the next problem. Okay, so here is problem number 4. And if we look at this very closely, there's no way to win because we are too far away from our pawns. And this enemy king can just easily come here and gobble up our pawn, and he should be able to win the game, no problem. So the only thing we can really do is try to aim for the opposition for the defensive part by sacrificing our pawn. So if it's white to move, we can always sacrifice our pawn by playing here. He takes, and now we're going to move our king here. Win opposition again. Win opposition again. Just follow the king. Doesn't matter what he does. We got this defensive play here. Block the pawn. And there we go. You should know the rest. If you don't, you have to go back to the previous series, and you'll get to the opposition, which is very important to learn. So let's go to the next problem. Okay, problem number 5 here. This is very similar to the previous position. We're just further away from our pawns. So same thing happens. This king is 2 squares from gobbling that pawn up, and we're 2 moves away from defending it. But if we move here, he moves here, he's going to take the pawn before us because he's protecting important squares. So we have to sacrifice and get a draw here. That's the only way. And now the important thing is long distance opposition. Usually regular opposition is when our king's here, his king's there, and whoever's move it is loses that position, whether it's a drawn or a lost. So we want to win. We want to be the last one coming here. And long distance, well, short distance is only 3 squares. Long distance is 5 squares. And it can even go as long as 7 squares. But that doesn't happen too often. 5 doesn't happen often either. So we're going to play here. He has to keep it. Otherwise, if he moves up, we move up. So let's keep the long distance. And now since he moved up, we moved up. And this is a draw. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay. So here is problem number 6. So here, we're going to try to win this position here. It is possible, but you have to be very careful. Okay. So what we can do here is we don't want to push his pawn, because that can end up in a draw. Because if we push, he takes, we play here, yeah, it's going to end up being a draw. You don't want to do that. But the first thing you want to do is play here with your king and block the enemy king from coming out. So he pushes his pawn. It's either he pushes once or twice. So if he pushed one time, your goal is to push your pawn one time to avoid trades, because the king's here and you can actually check him, promote to queen, and checkmate him very quickly. And it's also the same when he does pawn up 2. Now you should know what en passant is. He played 2 and he's offering you en passant. You could take this way, but if you remember from the first series, pawns on the h-file are usually drawn, so you don't want to do that. You rather just push your pawn up and threaten checkmate. Check. Check to the queen promotion and checkmate. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. So here, this is number 7. And this one's kind of tricky, but white can win this position. White can actually win this position here. So how this works is you first move the king here, okay? Because you have to defend your pawn and attack his pawn. Plus, you don't want him coming down here. Then once the king moves away, now what you want to do, this is very tricky. Very, very tricky position. It looks like it's guaranteed to win by taking, right? Well, you have to really, really think about this position. So what's the best move here? Taking or playing over here? Pause your video for a second. I'll tell you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So taking this pawn will actually lead into a draw. Okay. Because by taking this pawn, what happens is this king will march over here, he'll win opposition, and then from the first series, you know, pawn push here, king comes back here, and it's a draw. So we want to avoid that. And what we do instead is play king right here. Okay. So we're going to move here, and the king moves over. Now what would have happened if he pushed his pawn down here? Well, I believe it's just taken. And then if his king came back here, you would just jump back to the square and win opposition again. And if he would have came down here, well, you can pretty much just swing to the other side if I calculate it correctly. So going here, he comes here, he comes here, he comes here, and you push. And then he's forced to go this way. So that could be another way I can show you. as a bonus video, possibly, if it's in high demand. Okay, getting rid of all the arrows. So yes, once you place there, now we take. Now we push. Now we jump here, and then get the queen, and it should just be an easy game here. Okay, this is part 8, or number 8, and there's actually 2 parts to this. So if we look at this, we want to try to promote our pawn, but it looks like a problem because the king can just easily take. And we're kind of far away from this pawn, where this pawn's going to be march, 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 right? So what we're going to do is we're going to try to capture this pawn. But I'm going to see if you guys can answer this. So I'll give you guys a second to pause your video, otherwise count down to the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, white to move. Best move is to try to get either pawn, so you're going to go this way, because you're kind of moving closer to this pawn by moving further away. It's a weird trick. He pushes down, but now we're going to get closer to our pawn threatening to push. Now he wastes a move by taking. Now we're actually lined up with his pawn. And look, we're going to catch him. He's not going to promote. And we caught him. Now if we play this again, this is part 2. So again, we're going to try to do the same thing. Run away. He pushes. Run away here. Let's say he pushes pawn instead of king takes. We're going to push our pawn. Push our pawn. Push our pawn. He queens, we queen. So then here, our goal as white is not to step right here, because the queen can easily go here, here, or here, and have this skewer winning our queen. So all you want to do is not line up with your queen. Probably stay on dark squares around here. You know, any dark squares where you're not lined up with the queen. Okay. And if you get a chance, if he stops checking you, you can check him and try to win his queen, which is actually, this is a drawn position, so it's best to just get a draw here. There's no real forced way of winning this position. So just watch out for any skewers. Let's go to the next position.